AITA for ending our relationship after my girlfriend praised her ex before I could propose. I'm Evan, 35, and until that dinner, I honestly believed Maya and I were about to start the next chapter of our lives together. We had been dating for a little over 3 years, long enough that our routines had become automatic. I knew she took her coffee with oat milk and 1 packet of raw sugar. She knew I hated sleeping with the bedroom door open. She picked onions out of takeout and dropped them onto my plate without asking. I always kept the brand of vanilla candles she liked in the hall closet because she burned them whenever she was stressed. There were framed photos of us on the living room shelf. Her spare charger was permanently tangled with mine beside the couch. A lease renewal was sitting unopened on the counter because we had planned to sign it after the weekend. And in the inside pocket of my jacket that night was a ring I had spent 4 months choosing. I didn't want a huge proposal. Maya loved attention, but she hated anything that felt cheesy or staged. So I had made a dinner reservation for 8 of us: Maya, me, Reed, Brielle, and 4 other friends we had known for years, several weeks in advance. After dinner, I had reserved a small lounge area in the back of the restaurant with a private dessert table, champagne, and the lemon cake Maya always ordered on her birthday. I had already paid the deposit. The plan was simple: good food, people she loved. One honest question. The worst part is that I didn't hate Maya. I loved the version of her that made ordinary days feel less ordinary. When we first met, she was magnetic. She could turn a boring grocery run into a 20-minute debate about which cereal mascot would survive longest in the wild. She remembered bartenders' names, made friends in elevators, and could make a whole table laugh without trying too hard. At first, her jokes about me felt like part of that charm. "You fold towels like someone's dad," she told me once while I was doing laundry. "You make reservations for places that don't even require them. You have emergency batteries for your emergency batteries." I laughed because most of it was true. Then the jokes started happening more often in front of other people. At a friend's birthday dinner, I surprised her with concert tickets. Maya kissed my cheek, held them up, and said, "See, Evan can be spontaneous when he has 3 months to prepare." Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Another time, I suggested we leave a party because she had an early appointment the next morning. She looked at Brielle and said, "Dad says it's bedtime." Again, people laughed. When I brought it up later, Maya wrapped her arms around my waist and told me I was cute when I got serious. "I'm teasing you," she said. "That's how I show affection." I wanted to believe her. Then Daniel's name started appearing in the jokes. Daniel was Maya's ex. They had dated for nearly 2 years before we met. According to Maya, their relationship had been intense, unpredictable, and exhausting. He forgot plans, disappeared for days after arguments, and once canceled a trip while she was already waiting at the airport. When we first started dating, she talked about him like he was a mistake she was relieved to have survived. Over time, though, the stories changed. Daniel became spontaneous instead of unreliable, passionate instead of unstable, mysterious instead of emotionally unavailable. If I booked a quiet weekend away, Maya would say, Daniel would have picked somewhere with no cell service and figured it out when we got there. If I bought her a thoughtful gift, she would smile and say, "This is sweet. Very safe." Daniel always got me things I never expected. If I asked what she wanted for dinner, she would sigh and say, "Some people can just read a mood." At first, I told myself I was being insecure. Daniel wasn't around. Maya was with me. We had a home together. We had plans. She had chosen me. Still, every comparison left something behind. One night, about 6 months before the dinner, I finally brought it up while we were cleaning the kitchen. There were half-empty takeout containers on the counter, and Maya was scrolling through her phone while I loaded the dishwasher. "I need you to stop comparing me to Daniel," I said. She looked up slowly. "What? You do it all the time. Dates, gifts, how I handle things. It's getting old." Her expression shifted from confusion to amusement. "Oh my God, Evan. I'm serious." "That's obvious." I shut the dishwasher and leaned against the counter. "I'm not asking you to never joke. I'm asking you not to make me the punchline." She put her phone face down. "You know I don't want Daniel back, right?" "That's not what I said." "Then what's the issue?" "The issue is that you use him to make me feel inadequate." Maya rolled her eyes. "I can't be with someone who needs every sentence softened." "I'm not asking for that." "It really sounds like you are." Then she walked over, kissed my cheek, and said, "You're the one I'm with. Stop inventing problems." That conversation ended the way a lot of our difficult conversations ended. Maya acted like the fact that she had chosen me should excuse her behavior, and I backed down because I didn't want to sound jealous or controlling. For a while, the Daniel jokes decreased. I took that as progress. Reed didn't. Reed had been my closest friend since college. He was one of the few people who could tell me I was being an idiot without making me defensive, most of the time. A month before the dinner, we were having lunch when I told him I had bought the ring. He stared at me for a few seconds. "You don't look excited," I said. "I'm trying to decide how honest you want me to be. That's never stopped you before." He leaned back in his chair. "I think you love her. I also think she humiliates you more when she has an audience." I felt my jaw tighten. "She jokes. So do I. I don't compare you to people who made you feel replaceable. She's gotten better. Has she apologized?" "She doesn't think it's that serious." That wasn't my question. I looked away. Reed sighed. "You're calling it patience because that sounds better than admitting you're swallowing disrespect. That's a little dramatic." "No. What's dramatic is planning a proposal while hoping marriage changes how someone treats you." I didn't speak to him for the rest of the drive back. Later that night, I told myself Reed was overprotective. He had never liked Maya's sharper side. He noticed every awkward comment and remembered it longer than I did. I wanted to believe that was the problem. So I continued with the proposal plans. I confirmed the reservation. I arranged the lounge area. I ordered the cake. I made sure April, my younger sister, would be available for a video call afterward because she couldn't attend. The ring arrived on a Thursday. It was simple and elegant, exactly the kind of thing Maya had once paused to admire in a jewelry store window before pretending she hadn't. I kept opening the box when she wasn't home, just to look at it. The night before the dinner, I almost canceled everything. Maya had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I was making coffee when the screen lit up. "Daniel." The message preview read, "You sure you're ready to settle?" I didn't pick up the phone right away. I stood there staring at the name, trying to tell myself there could be a harmless explanation. Maybe they were talking about someone else. Maybe it was an old conversation. Maybe settle meant something completely different. Then another message appeared. "You always said safe made you restless." My stomach dropped. Maya had told me she and Daniel barely spoke. She said they occasionally replied to each other's social media posts. Nothing more. I knew her passcode. She knew mine. We had never treated our phones like forbidden territory, but I also knew opening that conversation would cross a line. I opened it anyway. The messages weren't sexual. There were no plans to meet, no declarations of love, no explicit affair. In some ways, that made them harder to process. They had been talking for months. Not every day, but often enough. Daniel sent her jokes about being domesticated. Maya complained that I planned everything too carefully. She called me safe, but predictable. Daniel said I looked like the type to buy flowers from a checklist. Maya replied with a row of laughing emojis. In another exchange, she told him I was talking about renewing our lease. Daniel wrote, "You sure you're ready to settle?" Maya replied, "Evan is safe." Safe isn't always bad. Daniel answered, "That sounded convincing." She sent another laughing reaction and changed the subject. There were other messages about music, old stories, people they both knew. Nothing that would look like cheating in a screenshot by itself. But nowhere did Maya defend me. Not once. She didn't say I was thoughtful. She didn't say I made her happy. She didn't tell him to stop. She let her ex turn me into a joke, then helped him do it. I heard the shower turn off. I put the phone back exactly where it had been and poured the coffee I no longer wanted. Maya came into the kitchen wearing a robe, rubbing her hair with a towel. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah." "You look weird." "Didn't sleep well." She opened the refrigerator, took out the oat milk, and kissed my shoulder as she passed. For a moment, I almost confronted her. I pictured the entire argument before it could even happen. She would accuse me of invading her privacy. She would say Daniel was just a friend. She would focus on how I found the messages instead of what she had written. Then the dinner would be canceled, and I would spend the next week wondering whether I had overreacted. So I said nothing. That wasn't because I planned to trap her. I simply needed to see what she did when she believed I knew nothing. The next afternoon, Reed came by before dinner. He was wearing the same navy button-down he wore to every event he considered formal enough to require effort but not formal enough to require suffering. He watched me put the ring box in my jacket. "You sure?" he asked. "No. That's not a great answer." I saw messages between her and Daniel. His face changed immediately. "What kind of messages?" "Not cheating. Just disrespectful." "Evan, I know." "Then why are we going?" "Because I'm not accusing her tonight." "I'm listening." He looked at me for a long time. Then he nodded once. "All right, but I'm not laughing if she starts." The restaurant had a long leather booth in a semi-private corner. Maya had loved it when we had eaten there the year before, so I had requested the same section. She arrived with Brielle about 10 minutes after Reed and me. Maya wore a dark green dress and gold earrings I had given her for our second anniversary. She looked beautiful. For one stupid second, the sight of her made me want to forget everything. She slid into the booth, kissed me, and said, "You clean up well." "You too." "Why does this feel fancy?" she asked, looking around the table. "It's dinner. You made the reservation 3 weeks ago." "I make reservations for everything, remember?" She laughed and squeezed my hand. That should have felt affectionate. Instead, it felt like she had reminded me of my assigned role before the night had even started. The first 20 minutes were normal. We ordered drinks and shared appetizers. Someone told a story about a terrible first date. Brielle complained about a neighbor who kept stealing her parking space. Reed barely spoke, but that wasn't unusual in large groups. Then Maya started. When I reminded the server that one of the dishes needed to be ordered without nuts because Reed had an allergy, Maya smiled across the table. "See what I mean? Evan manages date night like he's filing taxes." A couple of people laughed. I didn't. She glanced at me, just for a second, before turning back to the table. That glance stayed with me. 10 minutes later, one of our friends asked how we chose restaurants because he and his girlfriend could never agree. Maya lifted her glass. "I let Evan make a spreadsheet. Then I pretend the final choice was mutual." "I've never made a restaurant spreadsheet," I said. "Not yet." More laughter. Brielle laughed louder than anyone, but it sounded forced. Reed looked at me. I gave him a small shake of my head. I wanted to see where Maya was going. The food arrived. For a while, the conversation shifted. Then someone mentioned taking a last-minute road trip. Maya leaned forward. "Daniel used to do that all the time. He'd show up and say, 'Pack a bag.' No itinerary. No hotel reservation. Just go." One of the friends across from us cleared his throat. "That sounds stressful." "It was," Maya said, "but exciting." She looked at me again. There it was. Not careless. Measured. She was checking whether I would react. I remembered Reed's words. She humiliates you more when she has an audience. I also remembered the message preview. "You always said safe made you restless." I took a drink of water and said nothing. Maya's smile widened a little. A few minutes later, she brought Daniel up again. This time it was a story about how he once planned an elaborate anniversary night without asking her a single question. "Some people just know," she said. "Know what?" I asked. She tilted her head. "How to make someone feel wanted." The table went quieter. Brielle reached for her wine and missed the stem the first time. One of the other women quickly asked Reed about a trip he had taken, but Maya spoke over her. "I'm not saying Evan doesn't try," she said. "He tries very hard." Her tone made "tries" sound like a diagnosis. I felt the ring box against my chest every time I breathed. Reed set his fork down. "Maya," he said. "What?" She smiled at him. "We're joking." "No, you're performing." Her smile tightened. "Evan can speak for himself." "I can," I said. Everyone looked at me. Maya waited. I could see something almost expectant in her face. She wanted a reaction. Maybe anger. Maybe embarrassment. Maybe another quiet surrender. I said, "Keep going." Her eyebrows lifted. "What does that mean?" "It means you clearly have more to say." A nervous silence spread around the booth. Maya laughed and looked at Brielle. "See? This is what I mean. Everything gets so serious." Brielle didn't laugh this time. Maya took another drink. Then she tapped her wineglass with one fingernail and said, "Fine. My ex made me feel wanted in ways Evan still hasn't figured out." The words landed harder because she said them so casually. Nobody moved. The restaurant noise seemed to pull away from our table. Plates clinked somewhere behind me. A server walked past carrying a tray. At our booth, All I could hear was Maya's small laugh fading into the silence. Her eyes flicked toward me again. Checking. Testing. I reached into my jacket. Maya's expression changed before the box even touched the table. I placed it beside her wine glass. Brielle covered her mouth. One of our friends whispered, "Oh no." Maya stared at the box. I said, "Good." Then I found out before I asked the wrong woman to marry me. Her face went pale. "Evan." I opened the box. The ring caught the light for maybe 2 seconds. Long enough for everyone to see it. Then I closed it again. "I was going to ask you a different question tonight," I said. "But you answered the one I should have asked months ago." Maya's mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. Then she laughed once, sharply. "Oh my God. Relax. It was a joke." "No, it wasn't." "Yes, it was. A bad joke, maybe, but you're being insane. I asked you privately to stop comparing me to him. That was months ago. And you kept doing it. You're seriously going to punish me over one comment? This isn't punishment. You just put a ring on the table in front of everyone to make me look awful. You did that yourself." Her eyes filled with tears. It happened so quickly that, a year earlier, I would have panicked. I would have reached for her hand. I would have tried to calm her down and explain that I wasn't angry, just hurt. This time, I stayed still. Maya reached for the ring box. I moved it back toward me. Her expression hardened. "So that's it," she said. "You planned this whole thing, and now you're taking it away because I said one stupid sentence." "I didn't take anything away. I changed my mind. In public. You used everyone at this table as an audience for my humiliation. Don't act surprised that they're here for the consequence." She wiped under one eye and looked around as if waiting for someone to defend her. A couple of friends stared at their plates. One looked uncomfortable enough to leave. Brielle whispered, "Maya, you went too far." Maya turned on her. "Don't." Reed pushed back from the table. "That wasn't one joke," he said. "That was the one he finally stopped swallowing." Maya glared at him. "Of course you'd say that. You've never liked me. I like you fine. I didn't like watching you use him for target practice." "Oh, please. He warned you before. This is none of your business. You made it everyone's business when you did it at dinner." Maya looked back at me. "Tell him to stop." "No." Her face crumpled again. "You're really choosing this moment to humiliate me?" I picked up the ring box and slid it into my pocket. "No, you did this. I'm just not cleaning it up for you." I signaled the server and asked for my part of the check. Maya kept talking while I waited. She said I was dramatic. She said I had ruined the night. She said I had clearly wanted an excuse to leave. She said she couldn't believe I would throw away 3 years over a joke. I didn't argue. That seemed to upset her more than anything. When the check came, I paid for my meal and the bottle of champagne I had ordered for the proposal. I left enough to cover the appetizer I had shared and added a tip. Then I stood. Reed stood too. Maya stared at him. "You're leaving?" "Yes," he said. "With him?" Reed glanced at me. "Obviously." We walked out without another argument. Outside, the air was cold enough to make my eyes water. I stood near the curb while Reed called a rideshare. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "I'm sorry. I almost proposed anyway. But you didn't. I bought the ring. Booked the whole thing. I read those messages last night and still put the box in my pocket." Reed looked toward the restaurant windows. "You wanted one more reason to believe her. I wanted to be wrong." The ride arrived. My phone started vibrating before we got in. "Maya." I declined the call. She called again. Then Brielle. Then Maya. During the ride home, my screen lit up over and over. By the time we reached my place, I had 14 missed calls, 7 text messages, and 2 voicemails. Reed walked me inside. The apartment looked exactly the same as it had that afternoon, which felt offensive somehow. Maya's shoes were near the door. Her jacket was draped over the dining chair. A photo of us from a beach trip was stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a taco. I took the ring box out of my pocket and put it on the kitchen counter. My phone vibrated again. "Maya, you cannot be serious. Maya, come back and talk to me. Maya, everyone is staring at me. Maya, you made me look like a monster. Maya, I said one stupid thing. Maya, Reed has always been against us. Maya, please answer." I turned the phone face down. Then I opened my email and canceled the lounge reservation. The cancellation page warned me that I would forfeit part of the deposit because it was less than 24 hours before the event. I clicked confirm. A minute later, the email arrived. Your reservation has been canceled. Refund issued minus cancellation fee. I stared at the amount I had lost. It should have made me angry. Instead, it felt cheap compared to what I had almost signed up for. Reed took 2 glasses from the cabinet and filled them with water. Do you want me to stay? He asked. No, I'm okay. You're not. I know, but I still want to be alone. He nodded. At the door, he turned back. Don't let tonight become a debate about whether she meant it. I looked at him. She'll try, he said. Don't debate the intent. Look at the pattern. After he left, I listened to one of Maya's voicemails. At first, she was crying. Then she was angry. I don't know what you expected me to do, she said. You blindsided me with a ring and then took it away. You're acting like I cheated on you. I made a joke. Maybe it was mean, but you've made jokes too. You can't just abandon me at a restaurant and call yourself mature. I deleted it before it finished. The next message was from Brielle. I'm staying with her until she calms down. I'm sorry. I didn't know about the ring. I typed a response, erased it, then wrote, please make sure she gets home safely. That's all. Maya came back after midnight. I was sitting on the couch with the lights off except for the lamp beside me. The ring box was in the drawer of the side table. I had moved our photo from the shelf and placed it face down. She opened the door quietly, as if she expected me to be asleep. When she saw me, she stopped. Her makeup was smudged. She had taken off her heels and was carrying them in one hand. Can we talk? She asked. We need to. She put her shoes down and stood near the doorway. Are you actually ending this? Yes. She flinched. You decided that in one night? No, I admitted it in one night. That doesn't even make sense. It makes perfect sense. She walked farther into the room. I was drinking. You weren't too drunk to watch my face after every comment. Her expression changed. What are you talking about? You kept checking whether I'd react. That's ridiculous. Was it? She crossed her arms. So now you're analyzing where I looked? I'm noticing what I ignored before. Maya shook her head and started pacing. You wanted a perfect proposal story. That's what this is. You wanted me to behave exactly the way you imagined, and when I didn't, you punished me. I didn't need perfect. You clearly did. I needed basic respect. You had a ring in your pocket and didn't tell me. You invited everyone. You set up some big public moment without asking whether I wanted that. I reserved a private room after dinner with our closest friends. That's still pressure. Then you could have said no. She stopped pacing. You don't get it. Then explain it. Maya looked away. For a second, I thought she might tell me the truth. Instead, she said, I got nervous. So you compared me to Daniel? I said something stupid. You've been saying stupid things for years. Oh, come on. I asked you to stop. And I tried. No. You paused. She stared at me. I continued before I could lose my nerve. We're done. Tomorrow we can figure out when to exchange our things. We can split the remaining shared expenses. I'm not discussing the relationship tonight. You can't just decide that. I can. This is my home too. I know. I'm not throwing you out. I'll sleep on the couch. We'll handle the lease properly. Her face twisted. You're so cold. I'm trying not to be cruel. This is cruel. No. Cruel was making me sit there while you used your ex to tell everyone I wasn't enough. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I picked up my phone and typed a message while she watched. We're done. I'll arrange a time to exchange our things and settle shared expenses. I'm not discussing anything else tonight. I sent it to her even though she was standing 10 feet away. She looked at her phone, then at me. Seriously? I want it clear. Maya slept in the bedroom. I slept on the couch. Neither of us slept much. The next morning, she left before 8 a.m. without saying goodbye. Around 9 a.m., Brielle messaged me. Can I tell you something without Maya knowing? I almost ignored it. Then another message came through. I'm not trying to make this worse. I should have said something before dinner. I replied, what? She took several minutes to answer. Maya thought you might propose. My hands went cold. Brielle continued. She saw a jewelry store notification on your phone a few weeks ago. Then she overheard Reed say something last night mattered. She told me before dinner she thought you were planning something serious. I stared at the screen. What did she say exactly? Brielle's typing bubble appeared, disappeared, then returned. She said, I need to know if he can handle the real me before I say yes to anything. I read the sentence 3 times. Brielle sent another message. I asked what that meant. She said you get quiet whenever she jokes, and she wanted to see if you'd finally react. She said if you got mad, it meant you were controlling. If you stayed calm, it meant you understood her. I thought she was just nervous and talking nonsense. I didn't think she'd do that. Then, I laughed at first because I didn't know what else to do, and that was wrong. I'm sorry. I sat alone at the kitchen table with my coffee going cold. Until that moment, part of me had still been searching for a version of the dinner where Maya had simply gotten carried away. The truth was worse. She had suspected I might propose, and instead of asking me about it, she had turned the dinner into a test. If I got angry, I was insecure. If I stayed quiet, she could keep pushing. If I proposed anyway, she would know I would tolerate almost anything to preserve the relationship. It wasn't about whether I could handle the real her. It was about whether she could make disrespect part of the admission price for loving her. I asked Brielle to send screenshots of anything Maya had written. She sent one. It showed Maya's message from earlier that afternoon. I think he's planning something. I need to see if he can handle the real me before I say yes to anything. I'm not marrying someone who gets threatened every time Daniel's name comes up. Brielle had replied, maybe don't bring up Daniel tonight. Maya answered, that would defeat the point. I saved the screenshot. Not because I wanted to publish it. I saved it because I knew Maya would eventually make me doubt my memory. Then I sent her one final message. Brielle told me about the test. You didn't fail because of one bad joke. You failed because you planned a test where the prize was my dignity. From now on, contact me only about the lease, belongings, or shared expenses. She called immediately. I declined it. She texted back, Brielle is lying. Then, she misunderstood. Then, I was scared. Then, you were already spying on my phone, so don't act innocent. That last message told me she knew exactly what I had seen. I didn't answer. By noon, the story had started moving through our friend group. Maya told people I had planned a public proposal without her consent, then humiliated her by revealing the ring after she made one bad joke. She said I had abandoned her at the restaurant and left her to explain everything alone. Some people believed that version because it was easier. A friend who had not been at dinner messaged me, saying something insensitive doesn't justify using an engagement ring as a weapon. I replied, you weren't there, and I'm not debating it. A few others stayed silent. But the people at the table knew what they had heard. One of them texted me that afternoon. I didn't know it had gotten that bad. I'm sorry I laughed before. Another wrote. She kept looking at you after every comment. I thought I was imagining it. Reed refused to discuss the situation with anyone who called it a joke. When one friend told him I had overreacted, he said he didn't end a relationship over a sentence. He ended it over a pattern that happened to finish itself in public. Maya was furious that people were not accepting her version automatically. She sent me a long email accusing me of turning our friends against her. I did not respond. 2 days later, she sent a Venmo request for half the dinner bill. The note said, since you ruined it. I declined the request because I had already paid my portion and the champagne. Then I sent her screenshots of the receipt. She responded with a thumbs up emoji. That evening, I took the couple photos off the fridge and shelf. I put them in a box with her books, a scarf, 2 mugs, and the little ceramic bowl she kept her keys in. I didn't throw anything away. I didn't smash anything. I just removed the evidence of a future that no longer existed. The lease renewal was still on the counter. I called the property manager and asked for options. Our current lease had 3 months left. We agreed that Maya would move in with Brielle temporarily while we worked out the remaining payments, and I would decide later whether to stay alone or move. All communication went through text. Who keeps the couch? When she would collect her clothes. How to split the streaming services. Whether she wanted the kitchen table her mother had given us. The practical details were almost more painful than the breakup. 3 years reduced to passwords, receipts, and pickup times. Maya tried twice to restart the emotional conversation. The first time, she showed up for a box of clothes and said, I just need you to admit you were looking for an excuse. I handed her the box. I was looking for a reason to stay. She stared at me. That's not fair. I know. The second time, she texted me at 2 in the morning. Daniel won't even talk to me now. I hope you're happy. I didn't answer, but I learned later what had happened. After the breakup, Maya had called Daniel repeatedly. At first, he listened. Then she started telling people that his messages had contributed to the fight. Daniel wanted no part of being the official reason she lost a future engagement. He sent her one message. I didn't tell you to say anything. I'm not getting dragged into this. Then he blocked her. According to Brielle, Maya was devastated. Not because she wanted Daniel back, exactly. She was devastated because the person whose attention she had used to make herself feel powerful disappeared the moment that attention had consequences. Brielle apologized to me in person about a week later. We met at a coffee shop. She sat across from me, twisting a napkin into smaller and smaller pieces. I should have warned you, she said. Yes. She looked down. I thought she was bluffing. Maya says dramatic things when she's nervous. You still knew. I did. Why did you laugh? Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't make excuses. Because everyone else did it first. Because silence felt worse. Because I wanted the night to stay normal. That's why she kept doing it. I know. I appreciated the apology, but I didn't tell her everything was fine. It wasn't. Brielle had helped create the kind of room where Maya could humiliate me and trust that social discomfort would protect her. Still, I believe she was genuinely sorry. We left on civil terms. Some friendships survived. Some didn't. 2 people in the group insisted Maya and I were equally responsible because public scenes are always messy. I stopped trying to explain the difference between creating a scene and refusing to hide the consequence of one. Another friend admitted he had noticed Maya's treatment of me for over a year, but never said anything because he assumed I was okay with it. That one stayed with me. People often assume that if you tolerate something, you consent to it. Sometimes you're just hoping it stops before you have to admit what it means. April came over the following weekend with 2 containers of food and no patience for my self-pity. She found me sitting at the kitchen table with the ring box in front of me. You planning to stare it into becoming a different decision? She asked. I'm returning it tomorrow. Good. She put the food in the refrigerator and sat across from me. I almost proposed, I said. I know. I saw the messages. I knew something was wrong. I still went. You loved her. That sounds like an excuse. It's an explanation. There's a difference. I opened the ring box. April looked at it for a moment. It's beautiful, she said. Yeah. You did not embarrass her. I put it on the table in front of everyone. You stopped helping her embarrass you. I closed the box. April leaned forward. You being calm all the time made everyone think you weren't hurting, including you. I should have left earlier. Probably. I gave her a look. What, she said. You wanted honesty. I did. You stayed too long. That doesn't mean you were required to stay forever. The next day, I returned the ring. The store deducted a small restocking fee because the ring had been resized, but most of the money went back to my account. I used part of it to cover the remaining lease costs. The rest sat untouched for months. Maya moved out completely 2 weeks later. She took the kitchen table, her candles, most of the framed photos, and one of the mugs I thought was mine but did not care enough to argue about. Before she left, she stood in the doorway and looked around the apartment. I really did love you, she said. I believed her. That was the hardest part. I loved you too. Then how can you be this sure? Because love wasn't the problem. She waited for more. I didn't give it to her. Eventually, she picked up her last box and left. We did not get back together. For several months, I replayed the dinner in my head. I wondered whether placing the ring on the table had been needlessly dramatic. I wondered whether I should have waited, taken her home, confronted her privately, and ended things without an audience. Maybe that would have been cleaner. But I also know what would have happened. Maya would have told everyone the dinner went badly because I was insecure about Daniel. She would have called her comment harmless. The people at the table would have remembered laughing at earlier jokes and convinced themselves the last one was not much worse. The ring box made the cost visible. It showed everyone, including me, what had actually been sitting on the other side of Maya's joke. A future. A proposal. A man who had spent years trying to prove that patience was stronger than pain. I am not proud that I ignored so many warnings. I am not proud that Reed and April saw the pattern before I admitted it. I am not proud that I almost asked Maya to marry me less than 24 hours after reading messages where she let her ex reduce me to safe. But I do not regret closing that box. I did not leave because Maya mentioned Daniel. I left because she needed an audience to prove I would let her disrespect me. She wanted to know whether I could handle the real her. I could. I just didn't want to marry her. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.